Peace, 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 beloveds, and happy Mother's Day. There is a happy up there somewhere in this gift. Sorry it doesn't show up, but maybe my smile will bring it forth, energetically speaking, if you will. So happy Mother's Day to everyone. I'm wishing you all a very lovely, calm, peaceful, joyful, amazing day to all the beautiful moms out there, all the moms. This is Oracle Deborah with the Oracle Deborah podcast on YouTube, and I am here, as I said, for a Mother's Day message. I made it a point today to be very specific, to add to my list today to send a video out for all of you. And again, to just celebrate this wonderful day with all of you. So here's the thing. I know that some of our moms have transitioned over, and I know that this is a very painful time for a lot of us. My mother transitioned over in January. So I want to also shout out those of us who are still grieving or who miss our moms or who wish our moms were here to enjoy this, this beautiful day with them. I'm sending out an extra dose of love and kindness to you. I actually wanted to share this scripture. And again, I'm just on this journey where I feel like I'm, making a full circle back to the scriptures. And I use it, I guess, as what we used to call spot scriptures, to use to, kind of, share, not just share the message, but just kind of branch off on the message that the scripture gives. It's not necessarily context either, right? So that's the problem with spot scriptures, but that's not the point. It's in Psalms, and it is Psalms, I believe it's 36:7. Yep, chapter 36:7. And it says, "How excellent is thy loving kindness, O God. Therefore, the children of men put their trust under the shadow of thy wings." And I love that part, how excellent is thy loving kindness. And that's what I want to kind of build off of on this message today. When I was doing my reading and meditation this morning, I'm actually in the chapter on faith. So there's a ton of faith messages I could share with you, and that would apply, to today's message in terms of this being Mother's Day, this being a joyous occasion for the most part, and just giving thanks to those of us who, to those who have given birth, basically. I think in this world, we see, I love how the universe works with me, right? Because it's like, I know I do all these things on the fly, and then I can tell when he's like, let's stop here, let's do that, let's, kind of thing. So, we live in this, world where I feel like they keep downplaying the mother figure, right? Even in the book that I read, even though it's very old, and I grant it that, and is written under a very paternalistic terms, like male, mankind, God, there's nothing in this book that mentions anything about the divine mother, like not one. And we know that we all come through the dark waters of the primordial, the dark primordial waters. So there is no male that can do that, you see. And in our world right now, I feel like, again, when we talk about things coming full circle, I feel like men are coming full circle where they dominated for a time being, and then women say, okay, that's enough. And it's been on that trajectory, and men are like, okay, now you're going too far. We're going to take this thing back. So I feel like things are coming full almost full circle again. Like it's like it almost gets there with the mama energy, and then the male paternalistic male energy sort of kind of comes in and it makes a big noise, if you will, and then you feel like, it's not going that way. But the thing with all of this is that we need both of the energies, right? We need the we need the masculine energy and we need the feminine energy. And each of us embody both of those energies, both masculine and both feminine. And sometimes humanity confuses me, or I don't get humanity, because I look at things sometimes and say, this is so clear. Why you would not be so extreme from one end to the other, like an extreme feminist, and sometimes, distorted feminism, or extreme masculinity, and again, sometimes extreme and distorted masculinity kind of shows up in our world. And we get off, you know, caught up in the hype, in the louder messages coming from people who had this gift of amassing quite a bit of following, whether it's through their arts or through their natural, gift of gab. Okay. um, who are able to persuade, if you will, many to follow them. Many of us are leaders, but most leaders will tell you you're no leader if you have no one to follow. Right? So you're like, technically that makes sense, there needs to be like some sort of following to be a leader, but we're also a leader of our own selves and our own minds. And there are leaders who may have a large following, but who cannot take captive their own bodies or their own minds or their own instincts, right? They lose control, kind of thing, and end up, as some would call, this was a terrible leader, right? So would you have someone who doesn't have a following, who may have good instincts and good precepts that govern them, to be a great leader? Or would you have someone who is charismatic? Kind of like the Pied Piper. A lot of these people I kind of consider, and not in a negative way, a little bit negative, but I don't mean it to be very negative. The Pied Piper used, actually, his little musical pipe to draw out this is the story, to draw out all the mice out of the city. This is the image that I'm remembering about this children's story, or maybe the Pied Piper leading the children off to some, you know, um, part of some land where they're, enslaved. I don't know if that plays a part in it as well. I could be totally messing up this story, so forgive me. But you get what I'm saying? Like, it's like, so are you the Pied Piper in a good way? Where maybe you're leading the mice away from the people and leading them to their own little habitat? Or are you the Pied Piper that are leading innocent souls to their destruction, kind of thing? So the thing is we all have this, we all have both energies. We all embody both energies. And to bring this message back to, Mother's Day, I know sometimes on Mother's Day, I mean, no man wants to say, well, it's Mother's Day for me too. I'm a single father, and I have to sometimes play the mother, even though they do have to take on, the role of mothers, or do the best they can, the same way single women have to do. If the father is not there, they have to somewhat take on the role of the father, um, because that's kind of part of, par for the course, that's part of the duties. That's part of the duties. Um, But in this case, what I want to say is, let us keep Mother's Day Mother's Day, and let us keep Father's Day Father's Day. And even though kind of like both energies we embody, sometimes we have to play multiple roles. Um, it is okay, and it's nice to just honor, you know, the feminine energy in this moment. Okay. No nation can build without a woman, because the woman is needed to birth the children. And the only way you're going to start a nation is with a family. Now you can go into the science lab, you know, which I believe humanity has done. I think they've gone into the science lab and are still in the lab today, doing things, mucking up and messing with DNA and all kinds of cellular things, which I don't agree with. I don't agree with extreme science in that way. Um, but nations are essentially built through the coming together of the man and the woman, the masculine and the feminine, to procreate another human being for the sake of starting a family. And from starting one family, you are able to build a nation. I think on those terms, which is very important to us. The strength of every nation is in their families. This is why, I've always gone to bat for, the foundational Black Americans and, the illusionary attacks on our family, on our family structure, right? Because again, it appears that there is an attack, a war going on, in our community. And I'm kind of standing on, not kind of, I'm definitely standing on that it is just an illusion. That we can just, speak faith into what we know and bypass all of this, illusionary energy and stand on our business. And a lot of us are doing that. Many of us are doing that. And if we have, kind of, what do I want to say, taking it for granted, if you will, and that's only if, or whatever the case, the circumstances are. And maybe you're like, I want to step up some more, or I want to step up for the first time, or maybe I just want to step up because I know I can do better, whatever the case may be, or maybe you've already been stepping up and you're just staying the course. Many of us have just stayed the course. Um, and I appreciate all of us for doing that. I appreciate all of us as mothers too. I want to kind of bring this point in as well. That when there was that crime bill in the 80s or 90s, a lot of foundational Black American men were sent off to prison for a very, very, very long time for for misdemeanors, basically, for minor things. And even a lot of those things was as a result because they couldn't get jobs. And when you don't offer, an outlet for people, if you're not properly educating, you know, society, and you are taking away jobs, and you pour drugs into their neighborhoods, and then you put this restriction in, so it's just kind of one thing on top of another. But when that happened, Black mothers walked up to the plate and said, okay, we're going to do this. Well, grandmothers said, okay, we're going to do this, even though I've raised my children, but I got grandchildren, because there are so many, there's so much juiciness and goodness and all kinds of wonderful things that come from having grandchildren. And, it has benefited the grandmothers as well, but the grandmothers have definitely been a fortress, matriarchs for our families. And, we want to, I won't say we want to, society decided to gaslight foundational Black Americans, which is really not funny, again, by saying, that the black mother is a menace to society, is a problem in society. All these single mothers are a problem in society when they created the problem in the first place. That was not the case with me. I was already established. It was my choices that brought me to, decide that I needed to divorce, and that was going to put me in a position of becoming a single mother. And no one wants that stigma, but I loved my son so much that I felt like the environment that we were constantly encroaching into was just too dangerous for him. Now, I value children. I have a lot of value for children. And so I didn't want to risk it. And 30 years later, about 30 years later, my son is actually saying thank you and appreciating me for making that really tough, hard decision, of getting him out of a situation that I had deemed was just far too dangerous. Yes, I could have at that time said, this is an illusion and we are family and we're going to work this out. I could have done that, but I just wasn't in that space at that time. I was in a space of safety in front of me. That might have been like a Thomas view of things, and the doubting Thomas. I was definitely a doubting Thomas during those time periods. I was very young, and security was everything. I had built it on my own. So I didn't want to sacrifice it. And I certainly wasn't used to any type of encrypted, if you will, type environments that would, lead me or our child down a road of confusion, you know, because of acts and behaviors and things of that nature. I didn't want it. And at that time I was one um to step away. I would definitely step away from a situation and let people be able to think, okay, now what did I have and what am I about to lose, and yada yada yada, all of that. And if they chose to walk away, then of course it was disappointing. However, I needed to know the truth and I needed to know what I needed to do. So there are those situations too. Okay. Um, so I say all this to say is there is there is so much value in the foundational Black American mother, the auntie. People are weaponizing auntie, grandma. I've I never thought in a million years, like never thought in a million years that I would witness, like literally I witness a demographic, a large population, not all of the foundational Black American men, but a large portion of our FBA men um, have so much disdain for the Black women that birthed them. Like, it's shocking to me. It's shocking. Even though I know none of us are perfect, we all, have come from imperfect environments and all these things, but I never thought it would get to that time period. But then I also didn't think that we would get to a place where, you know, um, our women would feel like, I could do this on my own. I'll have a baby with you, but I'm going to do these other things on my own. I never thought I would see that either. And I know where this influence has come from, this negative influence. Um, that's why I say it's an illusion, because there are energies that like to test to see how far they can go, before they roll out a narrative, and things of that nature, or propaganda, things like that. So just being aware of the messages being put out there, and having a bigger picture about what your family means to you. That is the most important thing. Having a greater message, or a greater goal beyond, the physical day-to-day stuff. Having a greater goal and making decisions based on that greater goal, you know? Like the little chickie down the street, or, in the workplace or something like that. Of course there's a lot of women out here. And of course, I have learned that a lot of women don't want to see other women with men. They don't want to see them as a couple. Even though they're a couple and they're cheating on their spouse, like, it's just wild to me. It's like a form of greed, gluttony, if you will, in the sexual arena. It's like sexual gluttony. And I think about the football player recently. I'm not going to call his name because this is not about him, but he has several, you know, children with several mothers, and just was just going at it. And one woman came along and literally just shattered his career over a lie. He was acquitted, yes, but he was already cut from his team, and he hasn't been picked up yet. And will he? Probably. He'll probably end up being all right. I mean, most people hope that he will, but they also hope that he will tighten up his belt a bit, you know? So I say all this to say is, this Mother's Day, this Father's Day thing, sometimes it gets a little cryptic because you want to be peachy about it. Like, ooh, happy Mother's Day. Yay. But there's all these other factors that play a part in how people perceive it, or how they feel about it, or how they want to, celebrate, if they want to celebrate at all. So there's a lot of things that has gone into play, if you will, um that gives mixed feelings about Mother's Day, for sure. Gives mixed feelings. And we're in a climate now, like I said, where I feel like the illusions keep wanting. I feel like the Piscean era keeps saying, "No, I don't want to let go," or it's the we're into the age of Aquarius, and there's this shadow of the Piscean area saying, "I'm still here. I haven't gone to, I haven't gone totally away yet." It's like almost like a bit of a shadow period of the Piscean era. The Piscean era, Pisces being ruled by Neptune. Neptune, is a planet, of inspiration, of religion, of illusions, of delusions. Those things represent Neptune, and Neptune rules Pisces. So, yes, my message here is mostly peachy, as people say. Um, Having a wonderful Mother's Day. There's nothing, more wonderful about having a great meal with. Honestly, here's my optimal Mother's Day. Is having a great meal with a lot of mothers, and their children are happy, or they're crying and going to take their children, taking care of their children. Everyone's kind of participating. Maybe the fathers did the cooking, or the men in the family did the cooking, or all of that. I don't like really going out for Mother's Day, because restaurants are crowded, and it's a little bit of a damper on that, in terms of that for me. You know what I mean? But I do like showering, mothers with presents, and having them really, really appreciate it, because you put so much thought into it. So that's what I would encourage. Just tap into your heart space, and whatever you decide to do, just tap into your heart space, and whatever you decide to do, make sure it is known it's coming from the heart, and let's do a little dig. What would make mom happy? What would make grandma happy? Who would make auntie happy? Listen, aunties are the best. Like my family, our families migrated, so there was distance and all these things, and I didn't grow up with, my extended family, things like that. But when I met my aunties, in my early 20s, oh my God, they were nothing but the sweetest. Like, I love my aunties. And it was sad because, they were all so much older, you know, than even my mom, and so much more older than me. And I was the youngest in the family. I was the baby in the family. So my mom was the baby in the family. So, everybody was so much older, but oh, did I love my aunties when I finally met them. And they didn't stick around for too long after that. And I still grieve them. You know, when I think of my aunts, I absolutely love them. When I think of my mom who's passed away, bless her heart, you know, I wanted to be there more for her, but because of the family dynamics, and this insatiable need for family members to kind of crowd her, that seemed to be a pattern in her side of family. These certain children would just crowd the parent kind of thing. But I knew and she knew that there was a, a deep love between us. And nothing and no one can ever take that away. Like, I know the conversation I had with my mother the last time I spoke with her, and really spoke with her, I mean. And that love is there. That love was absolutely there. And so, oh, some of us, this is a challenge for us. So honor the people whom you care about or who you care about. Don't listen to society and the narratives, because we have foreigners that look like us who are, constantly saying nasty, negative things and pushing that out there, as if they're FBA, and sort of making it an FBA message. It's not. It's not. Our mothers are beautiful. Our aunties are beautiful. Our grandmas are beautiful. And yes, you may have a mother, auntie, or grandma that's just off the charts. Okay, like, it's not that there is a angelic perfection, with all of us. That's insane to think that. But to place a narrative or to spread propaganda about whole groups of women is just, no. It's just unacceptable. We're not falling for that. Okay, we know that is absolutely a lie, not just an illusion, but an absolute lie. So we won't fall for that lie. So I just caution us to pay attention to who we're speaking to, you know, and who we're listening to, and the type of messages they keep sending. If you stop and pause and just observe, be the great observer like God, He is the great observer. Um, and watch and listen to people that you're around, you'll find that a lot of people, not all, but many people are cosplaying. And some people are just negative. And some people just like to start stuff. They like to keep chaos going, keep drama going, just have something going as a sense of entertainment. And some people just like to boast so much to make people feel small. Or sometimes people are just really excited, and because we feel a certain kind of way, we feel small. They're not doing it intentionally. So we have to observe ourselves and as well observe the people around us, and make sure that we're not falling for these negative messages that negatively impacts an entire group of people. Okay. So again, happy Mother's Day to everyone. And again, let me go back over this scripture, which I truly loved. How excellent is thy loving kindness. And I feel like that is the essence of the foundational Black matriarchy. The excellence of our loving kindness. It reverberates throughout all the world from corner to corner, no matter where we go. We are a loving species. We are. And so I know that you are loving. I know that I am loving. Okay. So let us filter that and spread that lovely message throughout the earth. Okay. And counter the negativity. We just melt it. You want to melt evil, you melt it with love. You want to melt chaos, you melt it with love. Truth will melt it. Okay. So, or just better yet, just go in and focus on love. When you embody love, you attract love. You understand what I'm saying? And just as easy as you feel like you're not attracting it, you can change that with just thought. I am love. I know that I am, because I am created by dot, 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 who created me, who is lovingly kind, who created me out of loving kindness, out of the out of its excellence, whomever you serve. But you're here for every reason that you're supposed to be here. So this is a wonderful Mother's Day, because we say that we value and we love ourselves, and we appreciate our mothers, and we appreciate our aunties, we appreciate our grandmothers, we appreciate the matriarchs in our family, and we appreciate the youth in our family, mothers to be. There is something very special about having a living soul grow inside of you. It is an experience like none other. Let not the world take these things so lightly. It is a beautiful experience. And I know our mothers across the board love their children. And sometimes that's where the conflict comes in at too. Because a love for your child is more than a love for somebody else's child. But you don't have to step on other people's children to lift your own up. Okay? Love yourself as a mother, as a woman, as a being, as a soul being. Love yourself from that place as a soul being. And then when you put on a mother's hat, you know, it's easier to love yourself, because you know you've done it from a place of love. All right. So, beloveds, I'm going to end it there. This was actually much, much longer than I expected it to be. Have a beautiful Mother's Day. I love you so very much. You mean so much to me. Thank you again for liking, for sharing, and for subscribing. This is Oracle Deborah with the Oracle Deborah podcast. Have a blessed Mommy's Day. Bye bye.